I might end up listing for your own business. I'm just giving you broad examples because it can help every other. I'm answering the questions in presence of other persons because it can help other business owners get ideas for their business. We might end up extraying back to your business, but we might not, just for you to get ideas. So there are about maybe 10 gas stations in my neighborhood, and only one person is promising me free delivery. That means I can call him, he comes to my house, pick up the gas, fills it, and brings it back. Who do you think I'm going to use the most? The guy who does that. Okay? So if you want to make more money from your business, that the entry is very easy, okay? We're simply saying, bring in unique value proposition. What stands you out from others? Okay? Then again, he also recommended in the book, in addition to unique value proposition, I mean, if I were to talk about unique value proposition, I can just keep listing them. He also talked about adding something that makes you the first. Okay? And then in the book, he gave an example of someone who, like a bank, for instance. One of the reasons why we trust First Bank is because they've attached first to their name. There's something about being the first. It means that, number one, you understand the terrain, and number two, you're an authority in the terrain. So you find out, what can I do that is making me the first in my business? So for banking, for instance, some people can say, oh, the first bank to do USSD banking, or the first bank to do whatever, all right? It stands you out, in as much as other people are doing, but you find something that you're the first to do and project it. So for your POS business, what can you do that will make you the first? You see, because I'm going to also touch this in the written rules of financial success. If you don't sit down to think, you're leaving a lot of gaps, and people that are thinking will always be ahead. I'm going to show you some shocking statistics. The game that we are playing, you see this money game, it's a very competitive game. So you can't just be ordinary and then win in the game. You can't. You have to do extraordinary things to win. Okay, so that's A of answering your question. The B is, if you're looking for millionaire fast lane, then be more thorough about your search. To do things that entry is not easy. Be thorough about your search. To do things that entry is not easy. If you're able to do that, you will make far more money than someone who is doing a business that entry is easy. And this is just, I don't make the rules, I explain the rules. That's just it is. That's the way it is. I wish I could tell you that, oh, you just start up any business and the business will bring you money anyhow. I wish I could tell you that, but that's not the truth. Okay? Where entry is easy, everybody can do it. And where everybody can do it, and when it comes to entry, it's not just about what it takes to start. Because I remember I gave an example of, using 50,000 naira to start. It's not just about what it takes to start. It might mean the way you do it. Can anybody just wake up and do the thing the way you do it? It still talks about entry. So you might be doing the same business, but the way you do it is different from others. So they can't run at your own level because they cannot imagine your own entry. Okay? So I hope this, I kept it broad. It's now left for you to go back and... So the flip side again to it is that, of course, you can decide to start up something else. The beautiful thing about this is that you can get someone to stand in for you, right? About this other, our business that we're talking about. And so you look for other businesses that you can do that can bring you money. Example, all right? POS has a lot to do with it's cash, so you have to create a structure or a system that helps to monitor things so that monies are not leaking anyway, right? So you get someone to stand in for you, put a system that helps you to monitor. However, you can also look for other things you can do on the side, and the idea is to raise money. Things that you can do that requires zero capital. Example, you can be doing your POS business and still be doing drop shipping. I know someone who is into drop shipping of energy, anything energy, like maybe energy lamp, energy fans, solar panels, and all of that. He's into drop shipping of that, all right? And he's making a lot of money. And guess what? Drop shipping means you don't put any money down. That's what it means. That's what drop shipping means. No money down, all right? You identify someone who has this thing stock up somewhere. Let's say in Lagos, for instance. My sister does drop shipping. My wife does drop shipping as well. So I have a fair knowledge of it. You identify someone, say in Lagos, Onitsha, Aba, or wherever that these things are produced or are found in large quantities and cheaper, and then you tell them, okay, you'll be sending me pictures of what's available. I'll be posting them on different channels, social media, whatever. And then when someone shows interest, the person will make payments. Of course, you've added your profits to it, and you've added delivery. My wife started doing drop shipping earlier. She'll say she sells hair. She'll say the hair is 50,000 naira, but you have to pay 3,000 naira delivery. People say they don't want to pay delivery. I say it's very simple now. Add the delivery money to the hair and tell them delivery is free, and people start buying. All right, and so she orders the hairs from Lagos. It gets to wherever. Beautiful thing can be you and your supply. If I want to judge, because I'm actively involved in the business, only about 30% of our clients are within Uyo. 70% are outside of Uyo. Port Harcourt, Lagos, Delta states. People buying, but she's here. She doesn't have to leave. She just makes payments to the company in Lagos. The Lagos company says, where's the address? Where is it going to? She puts in the person's address and phone number. You move it straight from Lagos to the person's house. And the deal is done. How much did I use to start the business? Zero capital. All right? And guess what? I can be doing my drop shipping and my POS business is still ongoing. So look for businesses you can start with zero capital in addition to this. The goal doesn't mean that this is Millionaire Fast Lane. The goal is that it can now give you the money that you need to start the kind of business that can bring in the cash flow that you want. The balance to it again is that if you become so much of an authority in it, it can still bring you money. I know drop shippers who are multi-millionaires. Multi-millionaires. They don't necessarily. Okay, the thing about drop shipping is that you get to a point where you've made so much money, you can begin to stock up some of the items so that people can come in, pay the monies, and move ahead with it. That's the beautiful thing about it. So I'm simply saying, in addition to unique value proposition, all right, which also this is included, you can look for zero capital businesses you can do that can bring in more money while you're looking at scaling. Okay? A POS business can scale up to be a microfinance bank. A POS business can scale up to be, a financial services business. A POS business can be a side hustle while you grow your drop shipping business to a big place. You now have a big warehouse, and you're selling from there. I know someone who sells drop shipping of shoes, all right, and recently she began to stock up shoes, and then she sells both physically and then online and all of that. And of course, when you get to that point, you know that money, all this small money it's not a problem anymore. Okay, so those are things that you might want to consider as a solution to your question. So, do we have any other question, Abbas? You have a question for me? Because I want to go to our topic for the day.
Yes, I wanted to ask what you explained.
Has covered it. Okay.
What happens when you would it be wrong on the fast step, or would it be fine like you're wrong on the fast step rather than when you get to
So the thing about the fast lane is that it's a destination for you, right? It's a destination in the sense that you might not necessarily start off on the fast lane, but you can have an understanding on how it works and then walk your way into the fast lane and then begin to fly from there. We are not saying wake up and run on the fast lane. It might not be realistic, but whatever you're doing, have the fast lane at the back of your mind that I'm going to use this to ensure that I find myself on the fast lane, and then you begin to run from there. So we're not saying it's a crime for you to start up something that the entry is easy. We're simply saying while you're doing that, remember that what will bring you the kind of monies you're looking for, okay, it's going to be things that the entry is not easy, and of course it's easily scalable. So you're looking for that. And remember, it can be in a business. Remember I said so. It can be in a business that everybody is doing, like I mentioned in a supermarket. Okay? It can be in a business that everybody is doing, but you have something different. And that makes it, and that can be based on your own approach. And then we call that trade secret. So everybody is doing Coca-Cola, but for over 100 years, they have a trade secret that nobody knows. And so you don't know the formula of how Coca-Cola, you might have Pepsi, but it's not Coca-Cola. You might have Biggie Cola, but it's not Coca-Cola. I learned the person that does Biggie Cola once worked with Coca-Cola. All right? But we have Biggie Cola, but there's Coca-Cola. Why? Because I have something that the world only when I'm about to die, I can now tell my son, okay, see the thing here. And my son takes over from me. It's the trade secret. Okay? It keeps the business running and it keeps entry difficult. Because that's the goal, right? You want to have a clear need. You want to have a difficult entry. You want to have a good level of control. You want to have scalability, right? I also want to have something that gives you time. Remember, X amount of time giving you Y amount of dollars. Half of this should be able to give you maybe more money. Then you go for the one that with less time can give you more money. Are we there? So maybe in the next class I get to take other questions. Maybe we should put fine for late coming. What do you think? So that late comers will have to pay fine. So let's get straight to our class for today. The unwritten rules of financial success. So over the past, how many classes now? This is our third class, am I correct? So over the past 2 classes, we tried to lay the foundation, right? We started by letting us know that life rewards you according to your definitions. And one of the first things we did was define what money really is. And we said that money is actually, when you think about money, you think about value, right? So wherever there is value, there is money. And we define money as a medium or anything that can be used as a medium of exchange, all right, for value. That's what we define money as. Anything that can be used as a medium of exchange for value. We said that before the paper money came around, we had trade by barter system. So if I had tubers of yam, I needed tomato, I bring my value, all right, which is my tubers of yam, and I give it to you, and then in exchange for tomatoes. But the challenge with that system was the fact that if I brought my yam to you and you have tomatoes, the question is, do you need my yams? It's not all the time that you have tomato and you need yam. I might have tomato, you might have tomato and I need it. I have yam and you don't need it. So that was the problem of acceptability. The next challenge that system has, or the problem of portability. Imagine me having to carry 10 tubers of yam looking for someone that has tomato and needs the yam. So the barter system had a problem of acceptability and also had a problem of portability. Therefore, they now had to create something that represents the real value, which was this, all right? So this guy now is a representation of the real money. This is not the money. It's just a representation of the real money. Why did we create this to represent the money? Remember, acceptability and portability. So we had to create this to represent the real money. Because the real money is difficult to carry around, we create something that is easy to carry. Because the real money is not always acceptable, we create something that once you see it, you accept it. It's a representation of the real money. So this is a representation of the real money. The real money is value. Okay? So we established that wherever there's value, there will always be money. In fact, there's a level of value you get to. I remember I mentioned that. There's a level of value you have. People will be giving you money and be thanking you for receiving the money. I gave example of the not Donald Trump now, Barack Obama, all right, where he ate in ate pizza in a restaurant, and then someone snapped the leftover, posted it on eBay, and says, who wants to buy? People began to beg to buy Barack Obama's leftover. Why? Because he had grown to the point where he's now the value himself. So we said that in your journey of creating wealth, one of the things that should happen is you be deliberate about the person you are becoming. Because the person you are becoming is the most important thing in the journey. We also said that becoming a millionaire doesn't begin by you having $1 million in your account. It begins by you being the millionaire yourself. So you have to become the millionaire before the money comes. And part of what we said around that was, I'm just refreshing our minds. Part of what we said around that is that it begins with our programming. So for us to have any kind of results in life, including finances, it begins with your programming. From your programming, it gets to what? Your beliefs, right? From your beliefs, it gets to your feelings. From your feelings, it gets to your activity, and then afterwards, the results. So if your programming is wrong, it's going to affect your results. Two persons might be doing the same activity, but with different programming, they will get different results. So it matters what your programming is. And so when you begin your journey to creating financial success, when you begin your journey, all of what you should be interested in is reprogramming your mind by removing all the junk that has been there. You know, I'm going to show us some statistics. So to tell us that for the most part, our programming is doing us a lot. Remember we said part of the things that helps you do your programming are the 4 E's. And we remember 4 E's that decide your outcomes. The first we said is in any order: your environment, your education, your exposures, and your experiences. Thank you. So these 4 E's decides your outcomes in life. So if you're going to change your programming, change all of this. Change your environment, change your experiences, change your exposures, and change your education. So personally, when I began the journey to financial success, I had to do a total reprogramming. So I began to hang out with people that are already doing well financially. And how did I hang out with them? With books. In 1 year, I read over 100 books on the subject of finance because I wanted to think the way they think. The whole reprogramming process began. And so, by the time the reprogramming was done, it was now easy to convert who I've become into now, of course, affecting my financial outcomes. Are we there? So we touched on that. And then the last class, we went further to talk about the millionaire fast lane, certain things you need to do. We talked about points of leverage, all right, and several other things. I can't go over everything, otherwise we won't go into the class for today. So let's talk about the unwritten rules of financial success. So why is this important? I explained it in the last class when I told us about the movie In Time. I remember I said that if all the monies were shared equally to everybody in the world, the first thing that will happen is hyperinflation. In the sense that things that were supposed to be, say, bread that is supposed to be 2,000 naira, for instance, you start finding bread at 20,000. Why? Because there's excess money everywhere. Everybody has money. Hyperinflation. I explained that a lot when I used the movie. And so because of that, there are different rules that govern money that it takes a few people that know it to access these rules and play along with it, which is why it's just about 1% of the world population that enjoys the money we're talking about. I'll give you statistics. Statistics show that in the entire world, as we talk to you right now, there are only about 56 million people in the world that make up to $1 million in a year. How many people do you have in the world? Getting to 8 billion, right? So in the entire world, there are only about 56 million people that make up to $1 million in a year. Then only about 20 million people in the entire world are worth more than $1 million. What's the difference? What's the difference between making $1 million in a year and being worth $1 million?
I think being worth
Yes.
$1 million means that the value of this person, they can actually is up to that.
What do you mean by the value of a person?
The value. This person,
How do I know your value?
the value
In naira, how do I know your value?
everything, the possessions and like what he has and everything.
Your assets.
Assets. Like,
That's what you are trying to say. So by the time we put together all of your assets, your worth in this context is in your assets. So only about 20 million people in the world have assets worth $1 million. It's possible for you to make $1 million this year. Okay, because we're in Nigeria, let's bring it back to Naira so you can relate well. $1 million is about 1.7 billion Naira, right? It sounds big, as at this time last year. No, let's call it this time 2 years ago. $1 million was not up to 500 million Naira, because Naira was just about 500 Naira to $1. But right now, it is what it is. 1.7 billion for $1 million. So it's one thing for you to make 1.7 billion. Abbas, have you shared the link on the group? Okay. It's one thing for you to make 1.7 billion in a year. Naira, sorry. I'm used to dollars a lot. It's another thing for you to be worth 1.7 billion. And we said this is measured by your assets, right? So 20 million people. 20 million. In the world. Let's bring down the statistics. Well, I'm bringing it to Nigeria, but I'm bringing it to your doorstep. Out of these 20 million, 5 million of them are Americans. That means the remaining 15 million, all the other countries in the world are battling with it. 5 million of them are Americans. Out of these 5 million, only about 340,000 are blacks. Less than 1%. All right, let's come back to Africa. Out of the 20 million people that are worth $1 million, in the entire Africa, only 136,000 persons. In the whole of Africa, 136,000 persons are worth $1 million. Africa, we're coming to I'm coming to your backyard now. Calm down, I'm coming. So, all right. So 136,000 people in Africa are worth $1 million and above. South Africa is number one with about 39,000 persons. Egypt is number two. Can't remember the exact number. And somewhere in the equation is Nigeria with just about 10,000 persons that are worth $1 million and above. Then we'll now bring it down to centimillionaires. Centimillionaires are people that are worth over $100 million. There are only 50 persons in Nigeria that are centimillionaires. We're talking about the way the system has been designed, the unwritten rules of financial success. And these rules were written in such a way that we will keep on having about 50 thereabouts in the world, not in Nigeria, that will be worth centimillions. So the idea is for us to unravel these things and begin to put in the work that will bring you to the top 1%. So what we're sharing today is what the top 1% know and desperately want to keep secret. Why? We don't want hyperinflation. We want the information to be hidden. Yeah. Is what we are discussing today. You probably have heard them before. Yeah? But the difference in your diligence in applying them, that's the thing about the rules, all right? You probably have heard them before, but the difference is in your diligence in applying them. And it still falls back to programming. It still falls back to programming. If your programming is not if your programming is not right, it's going to affect how you apply these rules. And now and you understand better as you make progress. So I have a few of them here. I'll just take maybe 5 because of time, and then we make progress. The first rule is called the MACE procedure. M-A. The first rule is called the MACE procedure. M-A-C-E-E. M-A-C-E-E. The MACE procedure is just an acronym. Each of these letters stand for something. So in my study around wealth and wealth creation, I found out that there's a particular tribe in the world that makes a higher percentage of the richest people in the world. All right? And these are the Jews. And there's so many people that have written books about the Jews, how they think, how they train their people, how they do business. So many books around that area. Outside the fact that, okay, there's something special about the Jews, right? The power of the blessing and all of that. You know, Jews, descendants of Abraham and stuff like that. So, but beyond, and I'm still going to talk about that, right? One of the 5 rules I'll talk about, we'll still talk about the power of a certain tribe being privileged to certain, amount of results financially. But beyond the spirituality of it, there are certain things you can use to explain. The reason why Joseph's journey was easier than Jacob's journey is part of what I'm sharing with us today. Jacob discovered most of the things accidentally, but not Joseph. Joseph had the privilege of mentorship, which is the first in the MACE procedure. Mentorship. Joseph had the privilege of mentorship that Jacob didn't have. Jacob was just living life as it happens. Esau's brother came back one day and said, I would like to eat your beans, as the story will be. It's okay, you can eat it, give me your birthright. One of those days, the father is about to bless, the mother overhears what's happening, and then of course he gets the blessing, runs away. One of those days, he's in the house of his father-in-law now, Laban's house. And then he has suffered and suffered, you know the story now. He suffered to get the first wife, and then that night they brought him someone else. Suffered another 7 years, and they brought him someone else. And he kept on working, his household has grown, and he went to meet his father-in-law, and told the father-in-law, I'd like you to give me some part of my inheritance, I want to go. That is now when he's finding out who he really was and what kind of blessing that is coming from him. His father-in-law then says, I found out by divination that God has blessed me because of you. Jacob didn't know, but not Joseph. Joseph had the privilege of close mentorship with his father, Jacob. So most of the mistakes that Jacob made, he ensured that he transferred it. It's not just coat of many colors that Jacob gave to Joseph. Taught him a lot of things about life because of that proximity. I've had the privilege to be very close to someone who has learned a lot about life, and people like that spend most of their time. I remember one of those days. So I had to work in church at some point as my pastor's PA, and then I began to do some things. And then one of those days, my pastor was like, this is so good. I'd like us to, be in closer proximity. Can you come over to stay in my house? And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. In the church of over, in like a regular service attendant, we're having 5,000 people or more. And then I'm the one to come to the house. It was such a privilege. And then I tell people that that's one of the biggest mentorship I've had in my entire life. So look at how it happens. So my pastor is very experienced, all right? And in so many ways has achieved a lot of results. People like that, if you spend 1 week with them, your life should never remain the same. So part of what he does is that we're driving home because we're now going to the same house. So I'm in front of the car, the driver is driving, he's behind. From when we leave church to the house, he's teaching me. And he's teaching the driver. The driver was one of his PAs as well. In fact, he was the administrator of the church. He's teaching it. So people who have such experiences are always looking for opportunities to share, to help more people understand what they understand. So the times that Joseph spent with Jacob was not just times that he sat down and said, Jacob was really fond of Joseph. They were not always talking about, oh, my son, I like you, I don't like you. Those are not the things. He was teaching them life principles. How to understand the voice of God, how to understand the heartbeat of God, how to understand the blessings of God. So you see Joseph play out these things with amount of precision. There are not many persons that will go through what Joseph went through and come out of it. It's the power of mentorship. Not many persons. So Jacob is just stumbling into things, but not Joseph. Okay, then back to what I was saying. So there's a particular tribe in the world that are the most, successful, and this is because of certain truths that you understand, and this is one of them. All right, the maize procedure. So one time I was listening to one of my mentors. He was sharing the story. Now there's a particular tribe in Kenya that learns in fact they work almost exactly like the Jews. They are called the Maasai people. You might want to go read about them. The Maasai tribe in Kenya have a particular way of doing things that is just extraordinary. The Maasai tribe. So the tribe in Kenya have a particular way of training their children. As a matter of fact, every Jewish culture or family believe that when you get to the age of 12, you begin to take responsibility for your life. It's how they think. So at the age of 12, they begin to teach you how to sell to make money. They begin to teach you how to work to make money. Warren Buffett, for instance, who happens to be a Jew, Mark Zuckerberg, and the rest of them, most of the rich people in the world have this Jewish linkage. So Warren Buffett, for instance, how many of us know Warren Buffett? One of the richest men, if it's not number one, he's number two. He's getting to 100 years, but he has been among the richest men in the world for so many years now. He's an investor. He has investments in different businesses. Warren Buffett tells his story that at the age of 10 to 12, he had begun to learn how to sell from the age of 10, from the age of 12, all right? So back to the Maasai people. So this my mentor shares how he goes to Maasai Kingdom one of those days, and then, when you go to a particular place, maybe you're going to speak, but they want you to enjoy some of the natural views. Kenya, Tanzania have very good tourist places and all of that. So they took him to one of those tourist places for him to go and see lions and all those wildlife. And when he arrives the environment, the first thing he saw that baffled him was there was this 8-year-old boy, all right, with a stick like almost 2 times of his height. And then standing there, he's 8 years old, he has a stick 2 times of his height, and he's just standing there all alone. There are no much adults around. So the first question he asks is, what's this 8-year-old boy doing here? It's not normal to him. What's this 8-year-old boy doing here? And they say, that's the guy that is in charge of taking care of this sheep. So they show him a lot of sheep around here. And then, okay, so why is he with such a long stick? You say, this area is known for very wildlife animals. So we have hyenas, we have lions, we have tigers in this area. Excuse me. Excuse me. An 8-year-old boy in charge of hyenas, tigers, and all of that. He says, explain to me, I don't understand. And they told him 2 things that stuck with him. He said, a typical Maasai boy from a very young age, they are thought to believe in themselves so much that they believe that they can defeat anything using that stick. Imagine from the age of 8, they teach you how to face life. There's hardly anything that will come at you that you run from. We're talking about the unwritten rules of financial success. You see this game, I see life as a game, and I see financial success or financial journey as a game too. In fact, one of the classes I'll teach us on the subject, the game of life. All right, I'll teach you how Ludo, for instance, relates to life. I'll teach you how chess, for instance, refers to life. All right, what's the role of a king, a queen, a pawn, and all of that. But you see, if you're going to win in this game, there's a high level of resilience and toughness that he must develop. And part of it comes with a very rugged system of mentorship. Rugged. Rugged. Because it's possible for you to read some of these things from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, for instance. Sometimes I saw someone make a comment on social media about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I was like, I've read it several times. It doesn't work. It only works in America. And I laughed. I laughed because it's one thing to get head knowledge about these things that you read. It's another thing to have someone hold you by the hand and tell you this is how this thing is done. You're not just learning the principles, you're learning by observation the mentality that brings the results. Which is also the reason why, in case you've been wondering, why are the Igbos one of the most successful financial tribes in the world? Same thing. Igbos. They call it apprenticeship, we call it mentorship, they all mean the same thing. So an 8-year-old, not 8 years now, yeah, sometimes as young as that, 8-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old Igbo boy leaves his father's house. There's a movie that's after that out recently. Afamefuna, yes. Leaves his father's house at the age of 12. Goes to stay with his uncle or a senior figure to learn the trade. To learn the trade. So he stays there, learns the trade. He learns what makes a typical supermarket starts today, stay for 2 years, and on the second year, they're opening 3 other shops in the same city. Meanwhile, another person says, it's not provision business, I'll start now. After 1 year, I finished eating all the biscuits in the shop. But someone else is expanding to 4. It looks like magic. Some people say, oh, they use juju and all of that. There's an understanding. It's called mental. So he observes. How does he keep the books? How is the structure done in such a way that it covers financial gaps? Financial gaps usually come from, money coming in and money going out. How does money come in? Who takes money? Someone, was it you now? Someone yeah, it was you that told me now that people in some supermarkets now, some people bring in their own POS. You own a supermarket and people come and buy things, and when they want to pay, they pay to your POS, not the POS of the owner of the supermarket. Those are financial gaps. All right? So how does his boss cover the financial gaps? When goods are coming in, how does he cover financial gaps when the expenses are being done? Maybe they send you to go and buy diesel for it, and you're not monitoring. Go and buy 20 liters of diesel, I'll give you 10,000 naira. And the person goes and buys 3,000 naira diesel and comes back and says, oh, God, I bought it. Gaps. He's understanding these gaps. He's probably doing it if, for instance, if the guy did not cover the gap. But when he now starts his own, he remembers that he did it, so he covers the gap so someone else doesn't do it. That's the power of this. So the first thing they told him was, these guys are taught to believe in themselves so much that they believe that with that stick. In fact, they teach them to believe that you are stronger with this stick than someone with AK-47. It's called programming. This is how you can get results. Okay, the story of David now. People with ammunitions, swords, spears, and all of that. They were there. This guy is shouting. And then someone comes in and says, this guy is just cheap meat now. It's a belief that he had in himself. The second thing they told him about the Maasai people is that they were taught to use the stick. So there's a difference between understanding and believing in yourself and also having the skill on how to use the stick. So they're also taught, how are you going to use, because I can teach you to believe in something, but if I don't teach you how to use that stick, the lion will eat you. So how can you use the stick in such a way that you can, the only way you can, see, these lions are not toy lions, they are real. So for me to bring you my son, 8 years old, and keep there, and I'm sure that you come back home at night, because I've taught you, because if you don't come home, that means you did not know how to use that stick. So the only thing that will guarantee that you are coming home this night is that I've taught you how to use the stick so well. So they are taught to believe in themselves, and they are taught how to use the stick. It's called a healthy combination of courage and skills. Because you see, in the financial game, you need to have a healthy combination of both. Courage. A lot of people will be doing better, but because they lack the courage, they're playing themselves short. A lot of people, I was telling someone this morning, about a senior friend of mine, he's in Canada now, who started out life working with Nigerian liquefied natural gas, whatever, NLNG, okay? And then he worked there for a while, I don't know how many years, and then he decided to resign and come into the business world. You see, you know the thing about NLNG, I don't know, it's called oil companies, they give you so much comfort that if you're not careful, you can miss out on your own personal life calling. Because you wake up in the morning, they have prepared your breakfast as early as 7 a.m. breakfast is ready. By 11, they give you tea break, and the tea break is somebody's 2 days food. They give, you know how these things work. They give you tea, they give you soft drink, they give you meat pie, they give you small chops, they give you meat. It's tea break, it's not food yet. Around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, they now bring your lunch. And then in the evening, all right, there's another food again. Every blessed day without fail. All right, he's exposed to all of that. And then somehow inside of him, he says, I'm not fulfilled. Because not everybody is called to work with machines. Not everybody is just called to be confined in a place. Some people's life calling is to impact lives. And so he resigns, comes to start a business, eventually goes outside Nigeria, is in Canada now doing business and doing very, very well. My point is that some people are shortchanging themselves because there's a level of courage that they don't have. And sometimes it's not because you don't want to have it. It's because there's nobody holding you by the hand and saying, you can do this thing, let's go there. And sometimes it's not even by just telling you can do this. It's again by saying, come watch me how I do it. You see him do it over and over again, and you begin to think that is natural until you find out that another person somewhere else is trying to do it but can never imagine to do it. Then you say, okay, so this is what I really learned unknowingly staying under this person. So a requisite level of courage and skill is required if you are going to win in the game. So what's the maze procedure? The first one is mentorship. Mentorship, and it's highly underrated in Africa. Highly. It's only these guys, not only Sha, it's them that really understand what this thing really is about. Mentorship. Mentorship is not a Ponzi scheme where someone is saying, bring me all of these things and all of that, and then, Ponzi scheme, where everybody is giving to one person and the person is just there getting bigger and all of that. You see, the root word of the word mentor came from a story of a particular man who was going to fight somewhere. He wanted to go and fight. I think they call it the Trojan War. This is where the first time the word mentor was mentioned. So he was going to fight somewhere, and then there was a friend of his. He had his son. He went to his friend and says, "This is my son. I'm putting him in your care. Everything my son needs to, have the best of life is now your responsibility to take care of him." The name of the guy was Mentor. That's his name. So that's the idea, where the idea of mentorship comes in. A mentor is meant to be someone who's like a father figure in your life, who tells you this is how this thing is done, who is not afraid of sharing things with you. That's who a mentor is. And can I tell you also, a mentor is someone that doesn't mind even giving you money to ensure that you go ahead. So all of this idea of, it's wrong for you to take money from your mentor, they don't understand the concept of a mentor. Everything a father can give to you is who a mentor is. If your father can give you money, then of course a mentor should. Because that's how the root word of mentorship came about. Are we there? So the first one is mentorship. The second one is advisory. Bible says in the multitude of counselors, there's safety, right? And so while a mentor might care so much about you, it's not everything that a mentor knows. And so you need some persons to counsel you at different stages of your life. And counsel would mean people that are now, the thing about mentorship is that your mentor might not necessarily be in your field. I have a business mentor who's not doing my business. He's in New York here. Almost every day. In fact, what I've been listening between yesterday and today is video materials my mentor sent to me. She's not doing my business, but he's my mentor. All right. But the thing about advisory is that it now has to be someone who is now doing, in fact, not doing, who has done what you're trying to do and has had requisite level of experience doing it. And then you can now say, at this juncture, all right, this is how you ought to do it. That's advice on what to do. Okay? The third in the MACE procedure is coaching. So what's the difference between a mentor, an advisor, and a coach? The easiest way to understand is using the football game, for instance. A coach is now the one that will sit down and break down everything you need to do per day. The coach's work is now the most tedious. When I say tedious, all of them are tedious, but it's the most meticulous. The coach can design a timetable of work for you. A coach can decide what you eat and what not to eat. A coach can decide where you go and where not to go. A coach can decide how long you do a particular work. A coach is much more involved in your daily routine than a mentor and than an advisor. Are we there? A healthy combination of all of this. The third one is evaluation. All right, evaluation. So you've gotten mentorship, you've gotten advice or advisory systems around you. You've gotten coaching. You're always constantly evaluating. Always constantly evaluating. For instance, let me use David for example. I hope you know that, I don't know if this was the case, but one thing evaluation can do is that you can say, week 1, I came to this shepherding job and I saw lion. Week 2, I came and I saw a bear. Week 3, something else came up and all of that. Evaluation would mean, what can I do such that I don't wake up every week fighting lions and bears? You see, the reason why most people still turn around in circles is lack of evaluation. And evaluation has a lot to do with you sitting down almost every other time, maybe monthly or weekly, and asking yourself, what did I do to get to this point? What can I do better? There's a book, forgive me, I always recommend books. There's a book called 10-10-10. It generally talks about evaluation. And there's another book called Do Less, Get More. It also talks about evaluation. These are two books that I can't remember, my brother. If I were to remember all the authors of the books I've read, you'll be seeing smoke coming out of my head by now. I can't remember. But if you Google it and you're not sure if it's the one I'm talking about, you can just let me see it. I'll tell you if it is. Decision making, evaluation, same thing around this as well. Evaluation allows you to do less and get more. Because you now know what to do, what not to do, so you can get better results. And the last one in the MACE procedure, because I said I have 5 to talk to us about. The last one in the MACE procedure, my tab is having a wrong time, so I was like, how possible it is it rather? I think the time changed in the UK, was it 2 days ago? So I think my tab is UK time, this one is Nigerian time. I think so. Because this is telling me 4:18 and my phone is telling me 5:18. And all of them are correct. It's just the zoning. Okay. The 5th one, right, in the list is energy. And I'm going to explain energy when I get to number 2. Do we have questions so far in the maze procedure? Okay, so let's run.
Okay, sorry, sir.
Yes.
So basically, your mentor can actually also be a coach too.
Yes, definitely. Your mentor can be a coach. However, most times your mentor is always busy in his own right. And so he can provide mentorship, but might not be able to provide coaching. And that doesn't mean he's not a mentor. But a coach rather, is someone that has your time. Is involved in your day-to-day, routine. Remember, like I said that. Is involved in your day-to-day routine. Is interested in what you're doing every day to ensure that you get the results you say you want to get. He knows your goals. He knows what your action plan to achieve those goals. And sometimes he follows up to ensure that you're following that action plan to get there. Like what I'm doing now is mentorship. I'm not doing coaching. If I were to be coaching you, I'll be interested in what your everyday routine is to ensure you get to that. That's your goal, all right? That's what a coach does. A coach understands the strengths, the weaknesses of his players, if I can use that word, because it's always applied more in the sporting setting. Yes? If I were to say which one is better, I would have left the one from the other. I brought all of them. They're all necessary.
So that's it. One person can be all this.
One person can be all.
One person can be.
Yes.
Not from your explanation. A person can be mentoring. It's not coaching. Meaning,
But someone can also mentor and coach you.
how is it possible for a person to
You see, sometimes the thing about coaching is a coach might not necessarily have gotten to where you want to get to. A coach is more like a kingmaker. He may not have become a king. A mentor is the king. A mentor has become a king. And so his routine, all right, might not so much have allowed him to be so much of a coaching, which is now why you need someone else to do the job of coaching. But there are now extreme, or not extreme now, there are now peculiar cases where a mentor can say, I want to coach you. And usually it's maybe because the person has some level of interest. Maybe it's your father. Like me, I want to be a mentor and a coach to my children. So no matter how busy I am, I told myself recently, I said, most of the things I know about money, I'll start teaching my children from 9 upwards. I don't want to, I've begun to buy assets for my children. I don't want to go to be with the Lord and then look down and see that they are selling it. They don't know the value. So they think that help me to get the assets. I'll teach you. I'll teach you so you have that kind of mentality. Okay, so my point is, your mentor might not always have the time to sit down with you all the time and says, okay, this you did right, you didn't do this right. So tomorrow you do this. I'm going to check on you tomorrow. In the evening, meet me at so place. Let me show you what to do. All right. The coach has a fair knowledge of your routine and how you do things. A mentor provides a roadmap. A mentor provides a roadmap. He has been to where you want to get to and tells you, if you follow this road, it will lead you straight to where now? Waniba. So because you are going to Odotomubo Street, follow this way. When you get to the end of the road, branch left, then turn like this. They've been there. So that is why it's possible for you to have a coach that's not been the world's best football player, but he has coached someone else to become one. He may not have been there, but he has the discipline to give you the routine. So one of the things that coaches do is that they instill discipline into you to follow the roadmap that a mentor probably has set out for you. And like I said, your mentor can also be your coach. Your mentor can also be your advisor. Advisory role is now someone who is an expert, all right? An expert in that field that says, based on this and this, this is the best decision you have to take on this. That's where an advisor comes in. So your mentor can be your advisor and can be your coach as well. Make sense? So, kingmaker, coach. King himself, mentor. A king can also be a maker. But it's possible that a kingmaker has never been a king. So that's how it works. Okay? Point number 2. Is understanding the currencies of the world. Understanding the currencies of the world. The second rule, unwritten rule of financial success, is you must understand the currencies of the world. When I understood this particular point, it changed a lot for me. Changed a lot. You know, there's a difference between someone giving you a concept and someone teaching you how the concept works. For instance, when you hear motivational speakers, and nothing against them, right? I listen to motivational speeches a lot. It puts me on gear 5 all the time. So when you hear a motivational speaker says, you don't need money to start a business, it sounds like it doesn't make sense, right? But someone can now sit down and teach you. Like, oh, okay, I understand better. So let me explain that. This is the essence of number 2. When someone says you don't need money to start a business, this is what the person means. The person means that there are different kinds of currencies in the world, and it applies everywhere in the world, be it in Indonesia or in China or in Malaysia or in Johannesburg in South Africa. Currencies of the world. Amazingly, there are about 4 of them. I've talked about it here before, right? I have, just that you can't remember now. But it's my responsibility to keep teaching until it sinks. There are about 4 currencies in the world, right? The 3 are given to us freely. 3 of them. The first is money. The next is energy. The next is attention. And the last one is time. You see, the last 3, free. But guess what? How you're able to expend will determine how much of this you have at the end of the day. So it takes a level of understanding to be able to maximize all of these currencies. So I'm going to use a typical example to drive home my point. So recently, a particular crypto project came up, and they said, you're going to need to, it's called TapSwap, right? All of us know. You're going to need to spend some time on your phone and just be pressing it. And the more you're able to tap, the more millions of tokens you're going to have. I beg, don't laugh, because man, I saw that guy that resigned from, is it the hospital now? Because he had accumulated how many million tokens of TapSwap. He told the boss, with the kind of money I have, I cannot be working here. So you need to spend time tapping and tapping and tapping. In one project, they know that this is your currency. They steal it from you to advance their own cause. Every day, projects, systems, structures have been put in place to steal your currencies. Every blessed day. by the people who have an understanding of this. Every blessed day. Projects, systems, structures. Remember the last class I talked about attention arbitrage? Do you know that there are some persons in Meta company right now that are being paid to steal your money? By now, you know what I'm talking about. To steal your attention. That's their job. They want to understand you and steal from you. Of course, you understand what I mean stealing now. It's legitimate. But if you knew better, you won't give it to them. So it's called stealing. It's just like you have, you saw diamond in your backyard. You don't know what a diamond is, you don't know the value, you never heard of a diamond before, and then you just packed into a particular, no, you didn't pack, you bought the land, and then you saw some fine things at your backyard. And then every day someone comes and says, this your stone is fine, can you give me 2? The person gives you 2. And then you give the person 2 and the person goes away, thank you. And then the person comes around, you give the person 5 of the precious stones, beautiful stones. I have a lot, take it, I have a lot, take it. And then the next time the person comes, he's coming with two Prado Jeeps, policemen in one, him in the other one. And you're like, what's going on? He stole from you to become rich, but because you didn't know the value of what you have. That's why it's called stealing. But it's legitimate because you didn't know. And even you knew that they were diamonds and they were what you would never have given to the person. So if you had known that your attention was money, there's so many things you won't give it to. So attention arbitrage is one of the ways people have become wealthy today. So they create a platform called TikTok, for instance, and they say spend most of your time here. And the more you're able to spend time, we'll give you peanuts from it. Not bad. People are making so much money from TikTok. I'm not against it, all right? In fact, I'm always thinking of something like this comes out, how can I also do attention arbitrage? So I'm looking for how to run ads, to such platforms. So when organizations and companies that have the money to pay for your attention come in, they're accessing. Okay, this influencer has 200,000 followers. If I pay him 1 million naira to talk about 1xBet, he has gotten your attention. So they pay money for attention. It's called attention arbitrage. So if you understand how much your attention is worth, then you can now pay the attention in the right direction. That's why it's called pay attention. It's money. Spend time is money. Expend energy is money. It's currencies. I might not be able to delve deeper into it, but I wrote out some things around this. But can I go deeper? Let's see. Let me see. Because it's important you understand. What's the essence of me going to number 3 when you don't understand number 1 and number 2? So remember in the MEST procedure, one of these came up, right? Energy. Let's talk about energy. There's something called potential energy, right? And in this context, it's called thoughts. Thoughts have the potentials to make you become anything. Literally. So when I was reading, when I started my journey in financial, intelligence, one of the first books I read was Think and Grow Rich. Then I read Richest Man in Babylon. And in Think and Grow Rich, they emphasize the power of thoughts in eventually forming your outcomes. they emphasized that. They said that it's called the law of attraction. How many of us have heard about it before? The law of attraction. Whatever you think and think about, you bring about. There's an entire book that talks about the law of attraction. It's called The Secret. There's an entire book that talks about the law of attraction. It's called The Secret. That you can sit down in the Christian faith. What's his name now? Dr. Yonggi Cho wrote a book about it, called it The Fourth Dimension. He said how, of course, we call it faith. In the secular world, it's called what? Law of attraction. All are the same thing. So the guy who hasn't been to church before might not understand what faith is, understands the law of attraction, applies it, gets similar results. It's a world ruled by principles. Which is why it is possible for people who don't pray as much as we do to make more money than we do, because this thing applies to principles. And these principles are no respecters of persons and religion. Just like gravity, for instance. Okay? Because you fasted 40 days, if you jump up, you will come down. It doesn't respect how many days you fasted. As a matter of fact, because of the laws of hunger, the more you fast, the more hungry you become. It's a natural law. Systems and enzymes have been put in place to ensure that after how many hours you feel hungry again. The system has been put in place. Whether you're Christian, Buddhist, whatever you are, these principles apply. The reason why God did it that way is because God is a God of systems. He doesn't want to wake up every day and be thinking of how to create you again. So he put a system of reproduction into the female system, even into the male as well. So anytime the male meets the male and female, reproduction system is activated, and then another person is born. For the most part, combination of genes and all of that ensures that you look like the other person. And in some cases, you don't look like. Other factors affect that. One of my uncle has about how many children? He's dark, the wife is dark, but all the children are fair. I think it's traceable to his father, which is my grandfather, who was very fair. Okay? But there will always be one way to explain how the chromosomes, and they don't mind me, I didn't like biology in school. So, but I just try to understand it, because sometimes the laws of physics, biology, chemistry tends to affect how life works. Let me not go there. Okay, so what was I saying? Energy, right? So I said potential energy is thoughts, right? And that thoughts are very powerful. That in the book called The Fourth Dimension, Dr. Yonggi Cho talked about how he imagined a particular bicycle, got a mental picture of it, drew it, pasted it out somewhere in his room, and after a series of events, the bicycle came to reality. You know, some people say everything is created twice. First in the mind, and then secondly in reality. So potential energy is your thoughts. And so the quality of thoughts that you think about is a function of what kind of things you're exposed to, what kind of environment you're exposed to, what kind of people are talking to you. Are the people challenging you or not? Energy. So there are certain kinds of things you will now allow into your space because you understand the power of potential energy, which is thoughts. And so wealthy people understand how to condition their environment. They are so deliberate to the point that sometimes they decide what kind of channels can show in their house. Potential energy. It's currency. What am I listening to? What takes the most of my attention for the most part? Because thought is potential energy. The next thing about energy is that we now have what we call focused energy. And in one word, that is called what? Attention. So attention is a higher level of energy, which is why it comes after that. It's now a focused energy. And what I wrote here is this, all right? Attention is the new oil in today's economy. Many years ago, if someone was thinking of how to make money, attention would not have been one of the things they would consider. But today, everybody is scouting for people's attention. Because it's the richest black woman in the world made her money from attention. Oprah Winfrey got a lot of people to be hooked on her show and began to charge monies for people to, advertise on her show. Attention. So if I understand that focused energy is attention and I'm supposed to guard it jealously, I'm going to decide, all right, how much of my attention I give to what. And how does this also apply to what you can do? There's a large relationship between influence and affluence, which is what we are talking about. All right? The more you're able to grab people's attention, the higher your influence. And the higher your influence, the more money you can have. So which is also now a possible route for people to say, okay, I'm going to go into content creation, get more people's attention, and I become wealthy from it. There are extreme levels to it. But I mean, there are legitimate ways you can do that. So I'm also saying that one of the ways you can, become very wealthy in today's economy is to understand the power of attention. There's a popular teacher called Teacher Chike. Attention. Attention. So while every other person is just doing the regular teaching, he has found a way to gain the attention of people. And so kings and the likes are now rubbing shoulders with Teacher Chike. The same teaching, but it's getting attention. Okay. So I've talked about attention. Of course, money has been talked about in other places, right? But I'm going to still touch money again. I've talked about energy, I've talked about attention, and I want to talk about time. When we say time is money, what does it mean? Yes. Great. But there's something missing. Let me see if I can make it very simple so that anyone can understand. Let me begin from so many things are running through my head at the same time. So I want to make sure that it's simple. So there are two kinds when it comes to time. There's what we call chronos. Right? And there's what we call kairos. Chronos have to do with length of time, right? and kairos have to do with quality of time. Chronos has to do with length of time. When we have chronicle, talks about events that happen in 20 years, 50 years, length of time. Kairos talks about quality of time. In other words, it still links us back to energy. The quality of energy or thought we put into time will determine how much we get out of it. And I'll explain with scriptural reference. So in the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 9, I think verse 10 now. What's his name now? King Solomon said, I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift. That the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong. Follow me. As I said, I had to take my time to arrange it so it makes sense. I returned. Return means I've sat down and I've observed. Ecclesiastes was written in the later years of Solomon's life. Proverbs was written in the early years of his life. So Ecclesiastes was born out of several years of observation. And so Solomon says, I returned and I saw that the race is not to the swift. In other words, the fastest persons do not always win the race of life. He said, the battle is not to the strong. In other words, the strongest persons don't always win the battles. Then he gave the solution, or his observation. He said, time and chance. So what then is this time? And how does it relate to what we are talking about? Time and chance. Am I correct? Ecclesiastes 9:11. Okay. 9:11. Okay? So, how then does time now imply money? Time and chance happening to them all simply means while everyone is trying to be swift, to become, to become the winner of the race, to win the race. While everyone is trying to be strong, to become winner of the battle, the people that spend time building quality out of what they do will always win the game. What that means is, David and Goliath is a typical example. Big people. King Saul was very huge in size. David was very small. And they had a army of huge men. Time for them to fight. The solution to who will win the battle was not based on who was the strongest, but based on who has spent more time understanding the dynamics of bringing down this guy. So every time you invest time to stay ahead of others, you understand the power of time being equivalent to money. Which we still relate it back to this. The quality of thoughts. Quality of thoughts. Quality of thoughts. You're always thinking of what can I do differently. I'm talking about understanding the currencies of life. That the people that you all admire today are people that all spend time to say, what can I do differently? Can I understand how life works? Can I understand how people think? Can I understand? They are spending time creating quality. Kairos, not just length of time. Quality into how to think. Focused energy. Looking for how can I get things done better. Thinking of how quality time, Kairos moments. These are the people that understand the power of time being equivalent to money. You know what is very beautiful? It's because every individual organization that understands this understands how much money this can bring to the organization. That somehow, of course, I heard the story of a particular company. They brought an auditor to the company. They paid one guy to sit down in one empty room, only a table and a chair, and the guy just crossed his leg on the table and a chair, sat down on the chair, kept his leg on the table and crossed his leg, and was sitting down there. By the time the auditor went through all of the offices, it was okay with everybody except the guy. Went to the owner of the company and said, there's a particular guy in one room. sitting down crossing his leg, he doesn't deserve to be in the organization. And the owner of the organization, no, that's one of the most valuable person we have. We pay him so much to sit down and think for the company. It's probably the highest earning staff, because you understand that one valuable thought that comes from him, it can change the entire fortune of the company. This is invaluable. And so when we say this is money, we're simply saying that you can get one idea that someone with money cannot see your back. When I say money now, I'm talking about cash. Someone who has cash cannot see your back. Why? Because you spent kairos bringing out solutions, downloading them. I touched a bit about it last class. All right, when I talked about the fact that, how did I put it now? Let me take your mind back. I want to say the way I put it so you can remember. So last class, when I talked about maximizing opportunities, all right, I said that sometimes most people don't maximize opportunities because they don't understand how to trap ideas for the season. All right? You see what we are talking about here? When you spend time to trap ideas for the season, it stands you ahead of others. Okay. So before I move forward, do you understand money, energy, attention, and time? Because when you do, right, it's going to decide where you go to, what you spend time on, quality of your relationships, who you hang around with, and all of that. And you will not need anybody to preach to you to tell you, this one is not for me. I'm telling you. I'll talk about money. I want to finish this module, so I can't delve into this. But the good thing is that next class is specially for this. Am I correct? Just remind us again, our theme for the next class, especially for this. So that gives me the confidence to skip it. So I'm able to talk about energy, I'm able to talk about attention, I've been able to talk about time. But you see this guy, next class, we'll delve deeper into it. Someone remind me, we dropped it on the group, what our topic for the next class is, so we can delve into that. Yes, sir, you have a question for me. Please check. Are you okay? You're not with your phone. Someone please check the group. Our topic for the next class. I'm sure we are going to talk about money in depth in the next class. So I'll teach you the 5 levels of money. I'll teach you the 5 levels of money and how you can raise any amount of money to do whatever you want to do. Next class. I'm supposed to touch it today because it's under the currencies, right? But I'm justified to skip it because that's our focus for next class. Yes, your question.
Please, I want to ask, is it possible for someone to acquire knowledge under energy, attention, and time, or just be all that ignorant in a way that it should bring the person back to money based on what the person knows it is not bringing money? Is it possible to know this is ignorant? I like to compare you in another scenario.
Please paint, because your choice of words is contradicting themselves. Is this someone to know something ignorantly?
Yes.
They are contradicting themselves.
Yes, that's why I want to start this scenario.
Yes.
Just like someone that doesn't understand the things he's doing are actually biblical principles.
Yes.
That brings maybe success, good fortune, open doors, and all that. So the person doesn't know how to go.
So what's your question?
Is it possible for someone to be all that, do well under energy, attention, and time?
So let me answer it this way. So because I talk a lot about money and finances, I meet different people from different walks of life, right? I've met literates that are wealthy. I've met literates that are very poor. I've met illiterates that have money. And I've met illiterates that are very, very poor. I've met them, all right? The usual challenge is when someone who is trying to come up, and usually they are the literate ones, literate that doesn't have money. When they are trying to come up, they are now faced with reality. The reality is, there's a body information I need to have to be able to get the kind of monies I must have, all right? But then they are swayed back with the fact that they've seen an illiterate who have not read the kind of books they have been asked to read, and they're now telling themselves, this guy didn't read this much. How come he's having this much money? All right? The answer to that usually is where you're coming from. Is that most times, when someone is repeatedly recording a level of results, even though they did not have a formal education, the chances are excellent that they have been exposed to a body of information when it comes to financial success that allows them to consistently repeat those results. And how can this be possible? You stayed with an uncle that practiced the laws of financial success. He practiced the law of delayed gratification. You found out that your uncle is making a lot of money, but he's not spending frivolously. And so you began to imbibe those qualities. You didn't go to school, but you're observing someone do it. Unconsciously, you've learned the law of delayed gratification. You also found out that your uncle is always investing in things here and there. He's interested in investments. He's talking about investment. He's always taking you to where he's pricing to buy land, or he's pricing to buy another asset, or he has littered like 4 cars on the road, and you are aware. In fact, he even makes you in charge of getting the returns from the cars, from the drivers every week. He has taught you the law of investment and cash flow without telling you that this is the law of investment and cash flow. So when you come to become someone who's now responsible for yourself, you naturally are spending resources, all right, on investment and cash flow. You're spending time saving for investment. You're using delayed gratification. While other people, when they hit their first 10 million, go to Dubai and snap picture and post on social media, you're thinking of what? Because you've never seen your uncle do that. He has a lot of money enough to take him to anywhere in the world, but he spent more time building assets. You're like, okay, I'm going to do that. And in some cases, they even sit you down and teach you, I do this, and I do this. All right? Unconsciously, not unconsciously, subconsciously, it has now become a part of you. You do it unknowingly and you're getting the results. Why? Because somehow it has been programming that has been programmed into your system. If you do not have the privilege of such programming, declare state of emergency on your life. They'll find and listen to people by reading their books, attending their seminars, listening to their YouTube videos. They'll bring that programming into your life so that you can begin to get such results without having to depend on accidentally getting results. And that takes me to the final part of answering your question. It is possible, remember I said it in the first class, that financial success equals to financial vehicle times skill times effort. It is possible for me to exert a lot of energy. A lot. I'm desperate. I need to make this money. I'm spending time doing this. I'm going to, ask questions from people. I'm doing that. I'm doing buying and selling here and there. In the process of exerting a lot of effort, I begin to see money. And because of the fact that I'm engaging with money a lot, I'm beginning to learn from effort what I lacked in skill. And now I'm getting more skill because I exerted effort. It is possible to have skill and not get effort and you don't get the result. But if you put a lot of effort, sometimes you stumble into the skills and then you get a result. So what's the way forward? As much as possible, get the skill, put in the effort. Because the problem with this is that if you don't have the skill, the Bible says the labor of the foolish, wearieth them. It makes you tired because you don't know how to bring in these results. So there are some people that don't know that they don't know how. They just go in and put in the work and somehow stumble. It's a game of chance at that point. You can stumble into it or you can struggle all your life. Make sense? You can either, in the process of exerting energy, you can stumble into the laws of financial success or you may not. But what if you have the skill already and you now put in the effort? You're going to get the results. So my answer to your question has been answered in 3 different folds. Number 1, go for the skill. Number 2, yes, it's possible for you to, let me use your word, apply these laws ignorantly. And the actual word is subconsciously. You've gathered it from somewhere, subconsciously, by observation. All right? Which is what mostly happens with internships and apprenticeships. All right? And so it's possible. Did I answer your question? Okay. So let's wrap this up. Simple tips and tricks on how to raise money. Next class. And so I will now have the time to start from the 5 levels of money, of which number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The list on the list is cash. There are 4 other things that come before cash. Talk about that next class. And I always say, if you have the first 4 and you don't have cash, you have money. If you have the first 4 and you don't have cash, you have money. And a lot of it. Next class. Okay, so number 1 unwritten rule of financial success is what? The MACE procedure. MACE procedure. Healthy combination of courage and skill. Massive, massive. All right, so that's gathered from mentorship, advisors or advisory, coaching, evaluation, and energy. Number 2 is understanding the currencies of the world. All right. Number 3 is you must stand up to stand out. You must stand up to stand out. What that means is that if you just believe that doing my own thing, living my life jejely is going to bring me the kind of results that I want, then you've missed it. You have to deliberately, say, I have to find something unique that will make me stand out from the crowd. All of the persons we celebrate are people who understood this. And like I said, I didn't just say stand out. I said stand up. Like, just make up your mind from today that everything I do is all in a direction to ensure that there's something unique about me that my world is going to be blessed with. That was Joseph's story. That was Daniel's story in the Bible. That was David's story. That was Moses' story. Always look out for things that will make you stand out from others. It's an unwritten rule of financial success. Always look out for things that will make you stand out from others. And it's your responsibility to find them out about yourself. And you can find them out by looking inwards, mostly. By looking inwards, mostly. Look at your potentials. Look at your passions. All right? Look at your potentials. Look at what you're passionate about. How can you harness that into what you're doing? How can you do fashion business, for instance, in a way that what it was meant to. So everyone that was born into the world was born with unique potentials, all right, that the world is waiting for. And it's your responsibility to reach inwards and bring them out. So in whatever you do, I tried to touch it earlier on when you asked your question. Whatever you do, you must find something special about what you do that the world will be blessed by it. Okay? By that I mean, if you're doing, let's say, fashion for instance, what is the unique flavor around your fashion that the world will be happy to have you in the fashion industry? What's the unique flavor around your finance business, all right, that the world will be happy to have you? Bring unique stuff that makes you stand out into what you're doing, and then of course you always, in fact, it's one of the biggest chapters in the book. Of course, I'm recommending another book now. No, that's not the title. What the rich know and desperately want to keep secret. That's the title of the book. That's one of the biggest chapters in that book. What the rich know and desperately want to keep secret. Is what I'm talking about now. And so in that book, the author talked about a particular company called Starbucks. Starbucks Coffee. It's a coffee company. And one of the things that they have as their mantra is this. In Starbucks, they say, we are not in the coffee business serving people. We're in the people business serving coffee. That's what Starbucks have as their mantra. Everybody in Starbucks recites that every day. We're not in the coffee business serving people. We're in the people business serving coffee. So at the back of every Starbucks employee is, I'm first of all called to this place to serve people. So they bring courtesy into the business. They bring excellence in packaging to the business. They think about ways to serve people better. That's what we're talking about. It's one of the unique things about Coca-Cola, for instance. Outside the fact that they have a unique recipe, they're always thinking of ways they can do their, business that is different from others. Because if you don't do that, it's easy for you to be lost in the crowd. One of the statistics I didn't show you, I don't know if I wrote it down. Yes, I did. Let me read statistics for you, so you understand what I'm talking about. So in the United States of America, I'm not sure Nigeria has this kind of statistics. In the United States, in their first 5 years, 25% of businesses fail. In the first 5 years. In their first 10 years, 65% of businesses fizzle out. In United States, not, the thing we always say that Nigeria, because there's no NEPA light, businesses are failing. Because our president is bad, businesses are failing. This is United States. They have lights. They have good presidents. 65%. And so because of this, most people say that you're not in business until you've crossed your 10th year. That's when they really consider that you're in business. So what makes you now cross your 10th year is what you now sat down to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do with and in my business that will make me different from others. Because if you don't, chances are excellent that once you start and everybody sees that you're booming, the first year, the second year, what's going to happen? Entry. Everybody starts flocking in. Everybody starts flocking in. And so, with everybody doing the business, if you're just like every other person, you're out of business in no time. So, as a very core part of your everyday business engagement, you should be thinking of, what will I do to make me stand out from the rest? And so, at different stages of Coca-Cola's life, they always bring out different things. For instance, when they see someone who is trying to start up a restaurant business, let's say this was a restaurant, they come and meet you and say, madam, how are you doing? Say, fine. Can you give us the honor of painting your shop for you? Say, why not? They bring red and white paint, paints red up white, paints red down, on the top they write Coca-Cola, and that's not all. They now bring a picture of egusi soup, put egusi soup on the left, put Coca-Cola, Coke, bottle of Coke on the right, place it on the wall, and off they go. What did they just do? They successfully created an image in everybody's mind that your plate of egusi soup is not complete without a bottle of Coke. So the next time you come there, and give me egusi, and bring Coke. And then they went further recently, all right? I read in the book called How to Win Friends and Influence People that the most beautiful sound in a person's ear is the person's name. Am I correct? They call you by your name, you're excited about that. And so they taught in that book how to remember people's names, right? And so Coca-Cola now brought an idea from that. Share a Coke with Abasi Freke, share a Coke with Ayomide, share a Coke with Ogechi, right? Share a Coke with Goswill, share a Coke with Joy. All right? They brought out that. So the next time you're going to a shop when you're thirsty, you're looking for a bottle of Coke with Goswill on it. You want to buy your name. So they are in business for over 100 years. They are a billion-dollar company, but they're always ruling out things. Ruling out things that will make them stand out from the crowd. So I'm simply saying that one of the ways you can use to guarantee that you'll be in this game for long is that you've put a system in place that ensures that you're always bringing out unique value propositions about your business. These things are dynamic. They change with time, which is the other dimension of this that I didn't touch. Remember I said time equal to money means you sitting down to bring out ideas, right, that are quality. The other part to it, time being equal to money, is your understanding that things change with time. That what brought you victory in time A is not what will bring you victory in time B. For instance, what brought Nokia victory when GSM came up newly was the fact that they had strong phones. I can use the phone and stone a bass at the back and nothing will happen to it. That's the strength of Nokia. So somebody came and met them and said, hey, I feel that in the nearest future, this your strength will not match the time. You need to do something different. They're like, who are you? Do you know who we are? If you didn't have a Nokia phone, then you didn't have phone now. Everybody was talking about Nokia, right? All those other phones were just, okay, you don't get money, you buy Sergeant. Siemens. Bird, all those. No, Bird was in Motorola now. It was on his own. It was a Motorola Bird or something. Sony Ericsson, all of those guys. But everybody wanted to have Nokia. So what happened? Someone came and said, this is half of the phone, we're using it for keypad. Do we use keypad on our phones every time? The answer is no. So having your keypad on the phone all the time is wasted real estate. Wasted. You're wasting this land now. So doing such a way that the keypad will only appear when we need it. They say, no, we know what we are doing. And then, bam, the smartphones came out. And then before Nokia could try to come back again and do their own smartphones, they were gone. Big name, but lost out. Time and chance happened to them all. Time happened to Nokia. Don't allow time to happen to you. Time happened to BlackBerry. Don't allow time to happen to your business. Remember I told you earlier, your POS business will very soon will not be needed again. I don't know how it will come about, but I can guarantee you. So when that time comes, what happens to you? Time happened to Nitel. Am I correct? Yes, now. Well, the MTN and the rest of them come. No need for Nitel again. Time happened to post office. So all the people that are in Nigerian post office, nowhere. Have to now find their way to another place to work. All right? So stand up. Important. If you're going to keep winning in this game for a long time. So the beautiful thing about this is that it guarantees continuity and sustainability for your business. Or, of course, this is not just business now, even for your job. You know, because we're living in a time where there's intrapreneurship and there's entrepreneurship. PA for 1 year. Let me tell you what went down. When I got there, they said, okay, you're going to be a PA. I'm like, that's beautiful. Okay, what's a PA's job? Manage pastor's itinerary, carry his Bible, all those kind of things, sit there in front, ensure that church is going on very well. One of those days, they made me in charge, not in charge now, an exco in the teens church. I'm going to have teens camp. And then I had learned graphic design while I was in school. And so I brought out one of the finest graphics in a teens program they've ever seen. And my pastor said, who did this design? He said, it was Franklin did it. From that day, brothers and sisters, I began to do all the graphics for my church. All the graphics for my church. And then my pastor now said, this other person has been doing the graphics for Impact Weekly. Can you take over the graphics for Impact Weekly? Impact Weekly was our weekly publication. And now, if it was just graphics there, I would have been happy. Now that they moved Impact Weekly to my table, guess what happened? Impact Weekly is a bulletin that x-rays a message from one of my pastor's messages, anyone he chooses for that week. I have to go sit down, listen to the message, transcribe it, then type it, and then put it inside design. That's not all though. When I started, and I said, oh, okay, when you're done, give it to Mayowa to go and print. After a while, person now said, why are you always giving this to Mayowa? Don't you know how to print? I said, I know. I started going, taking it for printing. I'll take it to the printing press. I'll do what we call separation. That time there was no CTCP. Those of us that know printing. I'll do what we call separation. I'll buy film. Take it to where they will print on the film. But now take it, buy plates. They will now impress it on the plates. Take it to where they will now, I'll buy paper. Then they will now take it for impression. I began to transcribe, edit, proofread, design, print, everything about Impact Weekly. One of those days, I go to church and the person projecting was not there. And I'm like, okay, let me sit down and project, just because the person was not there. Brothers and sisters, that's how I became the projector of the church. Anytime I'm not projecting, my pastor will know, frankly, why are you not projecting? I'll run. So I'm projecting, I'm doing Impact Weekly, I know all of the process involved. I'm doing all the graphic design for the church. I'm in the teens department, I'm in the decoration department, I'm pastor's PA. I am in charge of a cell. They now brought into account units. After every service closed by 8, 9, I go upstairs, I'll count money till 12 o'clock. And then, that was not all though. They now made me in charge of, like a leader in the youth church. Then they now made me a foundation class teacher. I began to teach foundation class. I felt that the whole world was against me. But then today I look back and most of the things I now know and do were groomed in that process. All right? So my point is, most of the times, and nobody really appreciated me much. My salary did not increase. All right? Nobody really appreciated me much at that time. That's where I'm going to. Because sometimes we feel that I will only go the extra mile only when they can give me more money or when they can give me an award and say, you are the best. Can I still shock you? When it comes to when you are acknowledging the best of the best, I was not the best. I was doing much more than every other person. Oh, did I miss out? I went to stay in pastor's house. How did I miss that? So I was washing his clothes. I was washing the car. I was cleaning the house. How did I miss that? All of that. And then if I wake up late and I go to work late, there is a query waiting for me. Why did you go late? Sir, but I was washing the car. My brother, wake up early. Oh, how did I miss this other one? So in the house, if you're staying in the house, light doesn't go out. So if NEPA takes light, even if it's 2 a.m., you have to go downstairs and on the gen. So if we stay 3 minutes and light doesn't come on, you're in trouble. How can you be sleeping and light went off? Why? So if light goes off by 2 a.m., I run, my room was upstairs. I run downstairs on the gen and then go back. Whatever I want to do by that time is my choice. Did I also mention that sometimes he will call me to the sitting room by 3 a.m. and start advising me? No, they didn't preach. Oh. They didn't pray. We didn't pray. Advice. My point is, right? Because usually when I teach this, people say, but I've done a lot, but nobody recognizes me. It's not about who recognizes you. It's about who you're becoming in the process. That's what matters. Remember we said in the beginning, who you're becoming is much more than the money that you're making. Because when you become the person of value, money now finds you anywhere you are. When you appear, you know that someone of value appeared. When you open your mouth to talk, you know that this is someone of substance. Most of the things I know and do today were things I silently learned at 3 a.m. sitting there in the parlor, only I and my pastor advising me. Things that nobody in the 5,000 congregation heard except me. Privileges to help you stand out that looks messy, but that's what makes the difference for you. So when you now get to places, just because of how you talk, just because of how you comport yourself, just because of the things that you do, you stand out from others and you gain more favor. It now looks like, who is this guy in the first place? You know where you're coming from. You know the things you had to do that make you stand out. That was David's secret, nothing more. He got to this place and says, all the time my brothers were at home, I'm out there practicing leadership with sheep. Maybe there's a correlation between leadership and sheep. I'm practicing leadership with sheep. And now I have an opportunity to kill Goliath. I've got all of his experience. I'm going for it with all amount of confidence. Confident to the point that even Goliath was like, who is this guy now? They're coming to me with sticks. And he was only having one stick. Now, that's another book you should read, David and Goliath. It's an entire book that tells you the story of David and Goliath. What seemed like the strength of Goliath were his biggest weaknesses. Because of how big Goliath was, he had eye deficiencies. So where one stick was in front of him, he could see two sticks. He wasn't seeing very well. He was seeing double. Deficiency. And then those kind of height usually comes with dementia, all those kind of mental issues and all of that. So what looked like his strength was also part of the things that became his weaknesses. And David was able to capitalize on that. An entire book on David and Goliath, it will bless you if you read them. And so that also takes me finally to the final one, which is the priceless power of learning. And when I say learning, it can come in any form, which is, I need to end this class. I said I kept my tab, but I don't know. Yes, is it 4 or 5 now? 4. The priceless power of learning. When you've learned so much that certain things have become a part of you, you see this subject of money, it's no longer a bone of contention anymore. You're so settled in your mind that come what may, this money will always find me. Because you've put systems around learning. I have to be deliberate about it, whether it's going for extra courses, whether it's gaining extra skills, you see, like what it was easy for me to say no to all of those things. Very easy. So please, I'm sorry, my father said I should stay in my house. My father stayed in the town where I was, all right, and I was staying in my father's house at the time. All right, I'm sorry, opportunities, I saw it as a privilege. Why? I'm gonna drive home with him. He was gonna teach me what he didn't teach on the stage. I didn't even know that at 3 a.m. he would call me to teach me again. Some of the things I learned at 3 a.m., I didn't learn them in no book. I'm not seeing in any other book. Priceless learning opportunities. So there is a level of confidence that comes with learning. I was telling someone, the person was telling me that most times when I read, I cannot really remember what I read. And I told her, I said, I don't necessarily read because I want to remember all of what I read. I read for 2 things: to find the things I need for the moment, and to gain confidence with the fact that I've read, so I'm confident. That's it. So when I show up in a place, they say, can you do this? I remember I've read around it, I can do it, and I give value. There are times where I need to speak somewhere, and I'm told that morning, maybe 1 hour to the time, I need to prepare a slide. All I just need to do is prepare a slide. What to say is already on ground. Priceless. So put those structures in place. Opportunities to serve, opportunities to read books, attend trainings. Never outgrow an opportunity to learn. You can learn from anybody. From anybody. So one of the things I hold dear to myself is learning opportunities. I can learn from anybody. I'm more eager to learn than to teach. More eager. As much as I've read a lot of books, I still feel like I need to know more. I have more books that I've not read than the ones I've read. I want to learn more. And learn generally about life. Don't just limit yourself to money, 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 money. Remember, all right, life is not just around money. We talked about other aspects of life. The 4 F's: faith, finances, family, and what's the last one now? There were 4 now. Okay, there were 3, yeah. 3. I'm done. Questions? So please you can end the live.